Okay, good morning, students, and welcome to the first presentation for CRE1501, Creativity in the Early Years. And I am your lecturer, Mrs. A. Carrim, and you can email me on ecareer1@unistar.ac.za. So this is basically a presentation to go through the tutorial letter 101, which is very important, especially for understanding what is expected in creativity in the early years, CRE1501. And this is in the Department of Early Childhood Education and Development. So the purpose of this module is basically to enhance informed understanding from the module Early Learning Development area. So students who basically completed this module successfully will basically, possess a detailed and specialized knowledge base to enable the development of the creative arts. So it includes an understanding of the development of creative thinking in children, the structure of the content areas, and the learning environments that you will encounter in creative arts in the early years as well. To be UNISA graduates, you need to have distinctive graduate qualities. So be independent, be resilient, be a responsible and caring citizen. In this way, you will able to fulfill and serve multiple roles, in your immediate and future local, national, and global communities. So, it's important to have a critical understanding of your location, within maybe the African continent, and taking into account the histories, challenges, and potential, in relation to a globally diverse context. You need to be able to critically analyze and evaluate the credibility and usefulness of information and the data from multiple sources, in a globalized world with ever increasing information. And the data that flows, as well as considering competing worldviews. So you need to apply your discipline-specific knowledge competently, ethically, and creatively to solve real-life problems. And also be aware of your own learning, and your developmental needs and your future potential as an ECD teacher. Okay, so your study materials are basically your tutorial letter 101 as well as your CRE 1501 study guide, which is divided into 4 documents. You will notice this on the module site where you basically have to download each module, each learning unit from the specific section that I've created, under learning unit 1 to 4. And if you have any difficulties, you're more than welcome to email me. So the assessment criteria is very important for you to understand because there is no final examination and no supplementary examination for this module. It's basically continuous assessment, which means there are several mandatory formative assessments throughout the year to assess your ongoing progress with respect to the attainment of the outcomes. So if assessments are mandatory, the mark contributes to the year mark. I'll get into that also in the next slide. So if you have basically achieved less than 50% in an assessment, you will have a second opportunity to achieve the learning outcome for that specific assessment. If you fail to submit a mandatory assessment, there is no mark awarded, and the year mark is calculated accordingly. So you basically forfeit the marks, attached to that assignment. When the final mark for the module is calculated, which is really a big disadvantage, and you may not make the module. So the assessment basically encourages critical awareness and reflection by you as students, and it basically implies that you must take responsibility for your own learning and monitor your own progress. So assessments are seen as part of the learning material for this module. So just understand that as you do the assessments and read the study guide, consult other resources, discuss the work with fellow students, and actually do your research, you need to actually engage actively in the learning process. And this is the only way that you will actually, be successful in this module. You will receive assessment information through the module site for CRE 1501. And so please watch for announcements. There's also already some startup announcements that are on the module site that you need to understand, and it's probably also discussed on this slide. So in some cases, additional assessments might be available on the MyUnisa site for your module, and you must work consistently. So there will be no opportunities to submit assessments after the due date and time. When it comes to assessment plan, you need to complete this module. You will be required to submit 3 mandatory formative assessments and 1 summative assessment. So at the end, you must have submit all 4 formative as well as that summative assessment at the end. Yeah, so it's basically with the formative and summative, there's basically 4 assessments. So the formative assessment will count 75%, and the summative assessment will count 25% towards your final module mark. So as students who have basically submitted and achieved less than 50% in an assessment, you can actually retake the assessment, the second opportunity, which is the elective, but just remember it will be a totally different set of questions. So it is best to work hard for the first opportunity. Assessment 7 is a test. This means that all students need to take the test on the same day at the same time. You'll have about 4 hours to complete the test. This will be confirmed within the year, and the date will be communicated in advance. And students who have taken the test and achieved, like I said, less than 50%, you have the opportunity to retake the test with a different set of questions, just as I have explained with the assessments. There is no examination or supplementary for this module, and all information on when and where to submit your assessments are available on the My Module site, as well as the due dates. If you click on the assessment shells, you'll already see the open date and due date for the ones that are currently accessible. Your assessments will comprise of a combination of MCQs. You'll find multiple choice questions as well as written assessments. Like I said, the module is continuous, no examination. So remember, students, you need to complete all your assessments. Let's take time to understand the assessment plan. So assessment 1 is basically a quiz which counts for 15%. And remember, if you don't get the 50%, there will be assessment 2 that is open only thereafter for a limited time, where you can basically take the reassessment. But remember, you will basically have different questions. So it's not like you're getting the same questions and you're going to take it and get an 80% or 100%. It won't work like that. Assessment 3, you have a written assessment, which is testing you for learning unit 1 and 2, which counts 30%. If you don't make that assessment, you have the second opportunity to take assessment 4, which will also test you on the same content but different questions, learning unit 1 and 2. 30% is the weighting of that assessment. Assessment 5 as well, a written assessment, which is testing you on learning unit 3 and 4, counting 30%. And like I said, if you don't make that assessment, there is an opportunity to retake it, testing you on the same content but different set of questions. Assessment 7 works the same way, but in a sense where you need to do it within the same time as other students, within a 4-hour period, and that will be 25%. If you don't make it, you will get assessment 8, which is a retake, and then the best marks would apply in that sense. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let's look at understanding what optional and mandatory means. So optional is basically, we can say the elective is optional in a sense where if you realize that you didn't make the first assessment, you can retake. But other than that, I would advise you to take in consideration and put a lot of effort in your main assessments so that you don't actually have to stress yourself and take on so many assessments within the year. Mandatory assessments basically contribute to the year mark, and if you fail to submit your mandatory assessment, no mark is awarded, and the year mark is calculated accordingly, and you will basically forfeit the marks attached to that assessment, which can happen that you most probably would not make the final mark, which needs to be at least a 50%. Elective assessments are basically that choice that you have, if you've not made it in the previous assessment. So remember to make sure to diarize, your main assessments, work hard for it so that you know that you've completed one assessment and you can go straight to the next instead of retaking and redoing, the same content area for that specific assessment. So it's very important that you understand that as well. How do I submit my assignments? So remember, you access your module site that you registered for. You basically have all of these assessment shells. And then you basically just open it and you take the quiz online, and then you'll also have written assessments where you download the assessment. You get time to really complete it and then submit it before the due date and time. So remember, to complete the quiz, you need to basically complete it within that assessment shell. There's also it's also very important for you to understand that you need to prepare. You can't just open your learning units and start looking for the answers. Really read through the content and really understand the module before you take that quiz. I would advise you to start preparing for that at the moment. It is not advisable to use a cell phone to complete the quizzes. You should please use a desktop computer, a tablet, or a laptop for this task. Students who use cell phones, they find it difficult to navigate the online assessment tool on the small screen. And I find that they often struggle to navigate between questions and successfully complete the quizzes. So in addition to cell phones, cell phones are very vulnerable, in terms of dropping the internet connection and losing your work. So if at all possible, please do not use a cell phone for this type of assessment. For written assessments, please note that the due date by which your work must be submitted needs to be, it needs to be in time. So ensure that you follow the guidelines. Complete the assessment, click the submission button on the relevant assessment shell, and then upload your written assessment, and make sure that you upload the correct file. We find a lot of students really losing marks or not getting marks attached to that assessment because of submitting incorrect assessments. And we know that you are really struggling between many modules, and it can happen that you can really get affected. Since 2020, UNISA has conducted all its assessments online, giving the requirements, by professional bodies. We need to ensure the integrity of our assessments. So most of the time you will notice that our assessments have Turnitin switched on, which basically checks your originality of your submission against internal and external sources. And remember, Turnitin assists in identifying academic fraud and ghostwriting as well. With all these AI tools that are happening out there, we need to, guard against that. So students, you are expected to submit type responses when using the Turnitin software. And remember, it's very easy to detect AI, especially students copying and pasting and using it unethically is really sad to see. Please make sure not to, go that route. You will find yourself in a disciplinary hearing, and it's not going to be good for your studies to be suspended for that reason. Reminder, check, read your announcements weekly, participate in discussion forums. Important to understand academic dishonesty. Please read the UNISA guidelines on this, but just a quick understanding. Plagiarism is basically an act of taking words, ideas, and thoughts and presenting them as your own. So, copying and pasting from AI sources, not including references, paraphrasing as well without acknowledging, completing assessments, that would be in a form of cheating, completing assessments on behalf of another student, copying work, using social media. I know you all in these WhatsApp and Telegram groups, and where assessment information is being disseminated. Remember, it's very easy to detect all of these things, and as well as submitting corrupt and irrelevant files and buying these completed answers from so-called tutors and internet sites. We do know of people advertising these things. Remember, most of the time it's a scam, and even if they do it for you, it's basically it will affect your submission at the end of the day. So problems with submissions, we've noticed late submissions, no late submissions via email will be accepted. Incorrect assignments. We find that students are naming their documents incorrectly, and that's when it happens where you upload, like if you look at this presentation, I have ELD1501, so just ignore that. I would mean that you need to save it as CRE1501, assignment 02, and your student number, and then upload it. Corrupt files, something that also affects students, like I've mentioned before, and plagiarism also, that will affect your mark allocation. Do not wait until the last day, an hour, to upload your assignments. You really will, I don't want that to happen to you, but there is times where you get affected by technical errors, and that's why I really advise you not to wait for the last day and time. The module expectations, remember, we want you to progress. So especially as an ECE teacher, so we want you to position yourself as a thinking teacher, especially through this open distance e-learning environment. You need to address the challenges that young children face, especially when we give you case studies or activities. welcome these assessments, by discussing things in the discussion forum if you need more clarity. But also remember that you are allowing yourself to build perspectives that will inform you as a thinking teacher, and it will allow you to think, to create action and reflection at the same time. And this is very important for you to understand that while you're going through this module, think critically and creatively, work with a purpose, ask a lot of questions, see things from different perspectives, learn from each other, use cycles of reflection to improve your practice going forward into your career as a teacher. Solve problems using the best solutions, commit yourself to improvement, basically, and act in the best interest of the young children who are our future, and their families as well, that we need to support. The study plan, basically, I would advise you to read through the units, participate in the discussion forum, prepare for assessments at the same time as you're working through the learning unit, and work on the continuous assessments and online activities as well. And remember that you need to submit all assessments before the due date and time. And if you're working on the elective assessment, also remember you need to submit it before the due date and time. There will be no extensions whatsoever on any assessments. So, and also before you do the test, remember that you need to revise all 4 learning units, and make sure that you use all assessment opportunities and ensure that you finalize and submit on time. Like I said, it's mostly important to do the main assessments, and if you don't make it, then you need to basically redo. There will be an opening and closing date just after that specific assessment that will be basically a elective for that particular assessment, like I've explained earlier. And the summative assessment is basically the final submission, like we've noted. So it's very important that you take each assessment, seriously, and also complete it to the best of your ability. Okay, so students, I just want to remind you that you need to take responsibility for your own learning. You really need to engage with the content, reflect on the knowledge, by critically engaging, analyzing, and making meaning of it. It's not just about reading and, memorizing things. It's what does this information mean for you in your particular context, So you need to take the initiative, be independent, be persistent, make a sense of responsibility, and take the problems that you find in this module as a challenge to understand it. Be self-disciplined, also have that high degree of curiosity, be confident, enjoy your learning, and it's very important to explore the view of education and evaluate your own progress. And, basically formulate learning objectives while you working through your, these learning units, and also have a positive orientation to the future. You basically want to take what you learn in this module into your workplace. So be creative and, basically take the opportunities. You have a lot of learning opportunities in this module, whether it be from self-reflective activities to discussion forums to working through the study guide, thoroughly. It's really going to, basically give you that confidence in the workplace as well as an ECED educator. So thank you so much for listening to this presentation. I hope it gives you a better understanding of what is expected of you in this module, and also a better understanding of what a continuous assessment means. All the best, students, and I'm here to support you through this module. Thank you so much.